On the day my sister was reborn to choose a husband, I found that I could hear people's thoughts in their hearts. I heard Sylvia think, "This time, I must snatch the good husband first." Then, she anxiously dragged away my gentle husband from the last life, leaving me with the abusive husband who beat her every single day in the last life. I smiled. Did she really think my supposedly gentle husband from before had good character? I was reborn on the day my sister and I were to meet potential husbands. Two men of similar age sat across from us at the dining table. One was Justin, the eldest son of the Michael family, aloof by nature. The other was Felix, the younger son of the Michael family. Although he was illegitimate, he had a gentle disposition. This time, I must snatch the good husband first. Suddenly, a woman's voice echoed in my ears. It was Sylvia's voice. I looked at her, but she hadn't spoken aloud. Her eyes were fixed intently on Felix. "I'll definitely take you later." Her voice came through again. Only then did I realize that not only had I been reborn, but I could also hear people's thoughts. And judging by Sylvia's 2 sentences, she must have been reborn too. Otherwise, she wouldn't think such things. Sure enough, the next second she walked over and sat beside Felix, looking at him shyly. "Hello, I'm Sylvia. I like you." Beside me, Arthur suddenly spoke. "Emily, since Sylvia has already chosen Felix, then you shall marry Justin." At these words, Sylvia's eyes were full of triumph. She thought, "In this life, you can take the beatings for me." Because in the last life, Sylvia married Justin. Justin was highly capable in business, busy with work all day, and was rumored to be frigid. Every time Sylvia wanted to sleep with him, she would be beaten and kicked out of the room by that man. Finally, because she remained childless, Eleanor and Mr. Michael deemed her physically flawed and expelled her from the Michael family. As for me, I married Felix. Although he had little influence in the Michael family, it was enough for me to live comfortably. He stayed with me constantly, accompanying me shopping, dining, and on dates, spoiling me rotten. The entire Michael family knew our relationship was excellent. Later, Justin suddenly died of poisoning and Felix inherited the family company. My status in the Michael family instantly skyrocketed. Sylvia, jealous of me, drove into me while I was out shopping, taking us both out. "All right, Dad. I happen to quite like Justin anyway." I smiled and replied, then walked over and sat next to Justin. I had to admit, this man's presence was indeed powerful. Sitting next to him felt like being enveloped by a chilling aura that left me speechless. No wonder Sylvia was beaten so badly by him in the last life. I tried to hear his thoughts, but his mind was silent. However, when Felix smiled and looked at Sylvia, I heard him think, "What a pretty little thing." Hearing that, a shiver ran down my spine. I instinctively grabbed Justin's hand. Although he was aloof, his hand was quite warm. At my action, he glanced over. I quickly let go of his hand, and he said nothing more. Though this man seemed intimidating, I felt being with him was better than being with that viper, Felix. In this life, I must change my original tragic fate. I want to make a fortune. I want to be independent, relying on no one. Sylvia and I had our weddings together. In the last life, we also held them at the same time. Back then, Justin didn't show up for the wedding, whereas Felix arrived bright and early. Everyone said he was the more attentive husband. Sure enough, it was the same in this life. Felix, wearing a white suit, hurried over and swept Sylvia into his arms. As he passed by me, Sylvia looked at me triumphantly. "Emily, how come Justin hasn't come to pick you up?" I just smiled. "Don't worry about me, Sylvia. Worry about yourself." Her face fell, angered by my words. Asterisk laugh now. Let's see if you can still laugh after you're beaten later. Asterisk. She finished her thought and then went downstairs with Felix. But it was too early to say such things. Who would have the last laugh was still uncertain. Justin's absence from the wedding, just like in the last life, caused a lot of gossip and strange looks directed at both Sylvia and me. Sylvia was even happier, eager to tell Felix, "I love you." Then she kissed him on the lips. After kissing him, she stared at me triumphantly. I knew she wanted to see me embarrassed. But I wasn't stupid. I wouldn't storm off like she did in the last life. That would only make a joke of everyone present and the Michael family. I remembered they said Sylvia wasn't fit to be a Michael family daughter-in-law back then. Consequently, after the marriage, Eleanor never treated her well, making her life very difficult. Holding the microphone, I smiled graciously at the guests. Justin has a very important business deal to attend to today. Later, for greeting guests and offering toasts, I will step in for Justin. I hope you'll forgive his absence. At these words, the guests stopped their murmuring. Eleanor, sitting below, looked at me with approval. The Michael family cared most about appearances and public opinion. So at times like this, as a daughter-in-law, I couldn't show any panic. I had to project the demeanor of the lady of the house. Sylvia also saw Eleanor's gaze, and a flash of anger crossed her eyes. Asterisk, how disgusting. I'll definitely make you look bad during the wedding later. Asterisk. Frankly, I thought being able to hear thoughts was a great thing. When it came time to thank the parents, I calmly held up my skirt and walked towards Eleanor. Sylvia watched me intently, counting in her mind, 1, 2, 3, trying to trip me. The next second, I swiftly moved aside to avoid the wine she'd placed. Sylvia stumbled and fell hard onto the floor, completely soaked by the spilled red wine. Are you okay? Felix rushed to help her. But in his mind, he was cursing her. What an idiot. Everyone was looking our way. Eleanor's face was furious. What do you think you're doing? You're an embarrassment. I'm sorry, Mother. I didn't mean to. Sylvia apologized quickly, resentment in her eyes. But she didn't want me to have an easy time, so naturally, I wouldn't just swallow my anger. Because of Sylvia's display, the wedding quickly concluded. Eleanor was visibly angry, without a happy expression the entire time, but when she looked at me, her eyes were filled with satisfaction. She even took my hand and said, Emily, I'll make sure Justin comes back tonight to be with you and make it up to you. Sure enough, Justin did return that night. He opened the door, loosening his tie, his face etched with fatigue. I hurried over to take his jacket. Justin, you must be tired today. He just glanced at me and didn't acknowledge me. In the last life, I'd heard the butler say that Justin hadn't come back on the wedding night. Sylvia waited for him alone all night in the room, becoming the target of everyone's mockery. She went to Eleanor to complain, but was scolded instead, told she should understand her husband. While Justin was showering, I made the bed and brewed tea for him. Then I tidied up the sofa, preparing to sleep there alone. When Justin came out, a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes at the sight. I quickly said, You sleep in the bed, I'll sleep on the sofa. Emily, are you avoiding me? He narrowed his eyes slightly, watching me. Wearing only a bath towel, his chest muscles were visible, some water droplets still clinging to them. I had to admit, he had a great physique. I quickly looked away. No, we don't have feelings for each other yet. Sleeping together would just be awkward for both of us. If it's okay, I'd like to propose a partnership. What do you mean? After all, we're just a marriage of convenience. Many couples privately live separate lives, just spouses on the surface. And I married you simply because I wanted a wealthy life. I don't expect love. Hearing my words, he suddenly curved his lips into a smile. You're smart. That's exactly what I want too. I can agree to that. I was just an ordinary person. I wasn't confident I could capture a man's heart. After all, in the Michael family, his attitude towards me depended on Eleanor's attitude towards me. I didn't want to be targeted by everyone for everything I did, like Sylvia was in the last life. That would do me no good. Besides, he was abusive towards Sylvia in the last life. So I didn't want to provoke him and get beaten. That's why I chose to coexist peacefully with him. In this life, I just wanted to make money to start my own company and build my independent career. I asked Justin to post a photo of our hands clasped together on his social media account, and captioned it, Just married. The reason was to make everyone think our relationship was fine. Besides that, I also noticed he had very few friends. Apart from that post, he hardly posted anything else. Someone like him must lead a very boring life. When it came to sleeping, he really did take the large bed and left me to sleep on the sofa alone. He really didn't have a shred of consideration for his wife. Still, I should just be grateful. The next morning, I was woken up by Justin. He was already up early, listening to music while exercising. I'd heard men rumored to be frigid were less impressive. But his 8-pack abs, his muscular calves, he looked powerful. Much better physique than Felix. Stop staring. I'm not interested in you. He suddenly spoke, getting up from the floor. Get dressed and come have breakfast with me. He sounded quite gentle when he spoke. Why would he have been abusive towards Sylvia in the last life? After getting dressed, I went out with Justin. Just outside, I saw Sylvia and Felix walking over, holding hands. Sylvia was wearing a strapless dress, kiss marks visible on her collarbone and shoulders. She even deliberately leaned closer for me to see. She was beaming with pride, looking me up and down. Asterisk, why are you wearing so much? You must have been beaten and are trying to hide the bruises. Asterisk. She thought, then smiled triumphantly. Emily, how was your night? I was wearing a long-sleeved gown today. Sylvia seemed to have forgotten that Eleanor disliked anyone wearing vulgar attire or heavy makeup in the house. But I didn't want to remind her. I just smiled. Sylvia, according to seniority in this family, you should address me as sister-in-law, not Emily. Her face instantly fell, and she gritted her teeth defiantly. Justin doesn't even require that address. What makes you think you can? Then she looked at Justin. Justin, say something. I could feel Justin's aura beside me growing colder by the second. Felix tugged at Sylvia's hand, signaling her to stop talking. But she was oblivious to the gravity of the situation. Felix, what is the first rule of the Michael family code of conduct? Justin spoke softly. Felix quickly lowered his head. I'm sorry, brother. I'll deal with her right away. The next second, smack, he slapped Sylvia across the face. Quickly, greet brother and sister-in-law. Sylvia's face turned red from the blow. She was about to explode with rage. But she knew Justin wasn't someone to be trifled with. She could only say unwillingly, Good morning, brother, sister-in-law. With that, Felix pulled her away. Because I remembered, the first rule of the Michael family code of conduct was, no one shall disrespect the heir and the heir's wife, nor address the heir by his given name directly. And Justin was the heir of the Michael family. I remembered that in the last life, for survival, I had memorized all the family rules. Back then, after Sylvia married Justin, she constantly bullied me. It was because I remembered this rule that I didn't dare to disrespect her. I thought Sylvia knew the family rules, but it turned out she hadn't bothered to remember them at all. At the breakfast table, Sylvia sat across from me, covering her face, glaring at me with malice. Felix paused, knife poised over his steak. I heard him curse in his mind. Asterisk, what an idiot who only causes me trouble. Now Justin is definitely going to suspect I deliberately sent her to provoke the heir's authority. Asterisk. Try this muffin. Justin suddenly pushed a plate of pastries towards me, his voice tinged with deliberate gentleness. I looked up, meeting his slightly raised eyebrow, realizing he was making a point. Indeed, Eleanor put down her knife and fork, looking at me approvingly. Justin has always been a picky eater. I didn't expect Emily could get him to willingly share food. Sylvia's fingernails dug into her palms. I heard her jealousy. Asterisk, why? She just got my cast-off man. Asterisk, Felix subtly added a piece of bacon to her plate, but a flicker of disgust crossed his eyes, a detail that didn't escape me. So that was it. Beneath the facade of the gentle husband from the last life lay such a hypocritical soul. After breakfast, Justin changed into his suit, preparing to go to the company. I deliberately replaced his cufflinks with a matching deep blue pair. He raised an eyebrow and glanced at me, his fingertips brushing lightly against my waist. Join me at the charity gala tonight. It sounded like he was reminding me, don't show up looking a mess. As I was selecting a gown in the walk-in closet, I heard Sylvia arguing with Felix next door. Why did you hit me? Justin isn't frigid at all. He was so gentle with Emily just now. Her voice was tearful. You said you'd help me get the inheritance rights. Felix's cold laugh came through the wall. Idiot. Justin's gland test report shows he's a true alpha. How could he be frigid? He didn't love you in the last life simply because you were stupid and ugly and he found you repulsive. My hand holding the gown tightened abruptly. So the truth behind Sylvia being abused in the last life wasn't that Justin had issues with intimacy, but that he simply detested her. And Felix approaching her was, from the beginning, about using her to disrupt Justin's marriage, so his illegitimate son could have a chance to seize control. Before the gala began, Justin arrived on time to pick me up. He was wearing a custom-tailored black suit, the blue sapphire cufflinks I'd chosen glinting at his cuffs. His gaze swept over me. I'd specifically chosen a pearl-white mermaid gown, the diamond brooch at the neckline a gift from Eleanor. Very smart, he commented softly, reaching out to adjust my skirt hem. At the charity gala, Sylvia made her entrance in a striking red gown, a strap deliberately exposed. Eleanor frowned, looking at Felix, who immediately helped Sylvia adjust her strap, though a flicker of impatience crossed his eyes. I linked my arm through Justin's and walked towards the main table, hearing the whispers around us. I heard Justin's new wife is very graceful. Look at the sister, on the other hand. During the auction, Justin bid a high price for a Monet's Water Lilies painting. The MC joked that he bought it at a high price specifically for his beloved wife. Instead of refuting it, he put his arm around my waist and lightly kissed my forehead for the cameras. My wife deserves the best. This sudden gesture froze me, but I heard him chuckle inwardly. Asterisk, nice performance. Asterisk. Sylvia's face turned ashen. Just then, Felix raised his bidding paddle, buying a pair of diamond earrings. For my darling, he said, placing the earrings on Sylvia. But as his fingers brushed her earlobe, he gave it a sharp pinch. I clearly heard his warning in his mind. Asterisk, keep it together. Don't mess up my plan. Asterisk. Midway through the gala, Justin was pulled away by a business associate for a discussion. I excused myself to go to the restroom, but in the hallway, I overheard Felix's voice. Justin's secretary said he's going to Port Richmond docks tonight to inspect the cargo. It's a rare opportunity. Another unfamiliar male voice responded. The cargo ship docks at 7. We'll have people make a move in the warehouse. So the accidental poisoning in the last life wasn't a sudden illness at all, but Felix bribing black market arms dealers. I gripped my phone tight, about to call Justin, when Sylvia suddenly rushed out and knocked me to the ground. She stepped closer, her high heels clicking, her eyes glinting with madness. You think you'll be happy just because you snatched Justin? He's going to die tonight. Sylvia, what's wrong? Clutching my wildly beating heart, I deliberately raised my voice. The security guard at the end of the hallway heard the commotion and looked over. Sylvia stumbled back in panic, her high heel caught in the carpet, nearly falling. I seized the opportunity to get up, pretending to help her up. Be careful not to fall. Felix is waiting for you. She glared at me, her eyes full of resentment, but she had to follow me back to the ballroom. Justin had returned at some point. His face was grim as he looked at us. Where did you go? Sylvia was about to speak, but I quickly interjected. Sylvia twisted her ankle by accident. I helped her tend to it. Justin's gaze lingered on my face for a moment. Then he suddenly bent down and scooped me into his arms. Excuse us, my wife isn't feeling well. We'll be leaving now. The warmth in his arms seeped through his suit. I heard his heartbeat was unusually rapid, and only then realized I was gripping his tie so tightly my knuckles were white. After getting in the car, Justin immediately took off his suit jacket and draped it over me. Stop shaking. I've sent the bodyguards to look into the matter at Port Richmond docks. He had heard my heartbeat all along. I looked up at him, noticing his ear tips were red and his Adam's apple bobbed. He explained, alphas are more sensitive to Omega's emotional fluctuations. In the last life, I always thought Justin was a beta. It turned out he was a true alpha, and Sylvia, being a beta, couldn't match his pheromones. This was the root cause of their marriage breakdown. And I, a reborn woman who had awakened her Omega identity, was now gently enveloped by his cedar-scented pheromones. I felt strangely at ease. Late at night, a suppressed argument came from Justin's study. I crept closer, hearing Felix's tearful voice. Brother, I really didn't know anything about the Port Richmond docks matter. Those black market people deliberately framed me. Justin's voice was cold as an ice pick. Framing you? Then explain why 30 million US dollars suddenly appeared in your account. I won it gambling on sports. Felix's voice trembled. I closed my eyes and used my thought-reading ability. Sure enough, he was frantically repeating in his mind, Asterisk, can't tell him, he'll kill me if I do. Asterisk. Enough. The sound of Justin's dress shoes approached the door. I quickly retreated to the room. A moment later, he pushed the door open, his hair slightly disheveled, but he composed himself the moment he saw me. Did I wake you? No, I said, looking at his tense shoulders. On impulse, I reached out and massaged his temples. Actually, I heard everything. Felix tried to kill you. He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his pupils constricted. What else do you know? I felt choked by his intensity but forced myself to spill the truth about my past life. In the last life, you died from poisoning. Felix inherited the family business. Later, Sylvia was driven to try and hit me with her car. So you were reborn, he said, letting go of my hand, a hint of understanding in his voice. And you can hear people's thoughts. I looked up in surprise. He tugged at the corner of his mouth. I suspected it from the moment you chose me that day, and suddenly grabbed my hand. After all, the Emily from the last life looked like she'd seen a ghost whenever she saw me. He had noticed my unusual behavior all along. I suddenly remembered his will from the last life and how his assets were distributed. My throat felt tight. Why did you leave everything to me in that life? He fell silent for a long time, then suddenly got up and retrieved a velvet box from the safe. The moment he opened it, I saw a wedding ring broken in half inside. It was the thing I'd been clutching tightly in my hand before Sylvia hit me with her car in the last life. Because when you died, you were still clutching this. His voice was light as a sigh. I had someone investigate. You bought this ring with your first paycheck, and it's engraved with J and E. He knew everything all along. In the last life, I seemed to dislike him, but secretly engraved our initials in my heart. And he seemed cold, but only discovered the feelings hidden beneath the animosity after I died. Now his pheromones were no longer suppressed. The crisp cedar scent mixed with a hint of something burnt, a sign of alpha anxiety. Emily, I won't let you die again this time. He suddenly pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on top of my head. From today on, you'll move into my bedroom. I'll protect you myself. I was about to refuse when I heard his thoughts pounding like drums. Asterisk, I can only relax with my Omega by my side. Damn it, I actually feel this alpha possessiveness. Asterisk. Over the next week, Justin brought me completely under his protection. Every morning, he personally brewed coffee for me. While working late into the night, he would have me sit beside him and read, under the guise of building marital affection, but really because he was afraid of me leaving his sight. Sylvia sensed the situation was changing and constantly played the victim in front of Eleanor. Mother, Justin won't even let Felix and me attend the family meetings. Is he trying to monopolize the inheritance? She cried buckets, but didn't notice the weariness in Eleanor's eyes. Enough, Eleanor said, setting her teacup down with a sharp clatter. Justin is the heir. Naturally, he has the right to decide who attends meetings. As for you, you've been in close contact with people from the black market recently. Do you think I'm senile? Sylvia's face turned deathly pale. I heard her thoughts scream. Felix said Mother wouldn't find out. It turned out Felix had been using her to transfer assets and even secretly selling confidential family documents to competitors. Emily, go fetch Justin for me. Eleanor suddenly looked at me. Since Sylvia likes to help out so much, send her to manage the warehouse at the Midwest Distribution Center. They happen to need a manager who can cry on demand there. As Sylvia was screaming and the bodyguards dragged her away, Felix was hiding around the corner in the hallway, eavesdropping. I heard his thoughts scheming. Asterisk, Justin's not home. This is the perfect chance to kidnap Emily. If I hide her, I can force Justin to hand over the inheritance. Asterisk. That night, Justin was indeed called away to an emergency meeting. I sat in the bedroom, watching a shifty Felix on the security camera footage. I deliberately took off the tracking earring Justin had given me and placed it on the dressing table. Sister-in-law, aren't you asleep yet? Felix pushed the door open, a fake smile plastered on his face. I brought you a glass of milk. Behind him, the bodyguard held a stun gun. I pretended to recoil in panic, but as he approached, I suddenly splashed the milk in his face. You suicidal idiot. He wiped his face, his eyes flashing with malice. I took the chance to knock over the dressing table. Amidst the piercing crash, Justin's roar echoed from downstairs. Let her go. Everything happened too fast after that. When Justin kicked open the door, Felix's stun gun was only inches from my neck. Justin's bodyguards had already pinned him to the ground. Brother, I was forced. Felix cried out. Those black market people threatened me. Shut up. Justin ripped off his tie. His alpha dominance swept through the room, instantly freezing Felix, rendering him unable to move. He turned to me, his eyes full of terror, but seeing I was unharmed, he sighed softly, as long as you're all right. By the time the police took Felix away, it was already dawn. Justin sat on the edge of the bed, his fingertips gently brushing the disheveled strands of my hair. I'm sorry I scared you. I shook my head, suddenly remembering his loneliness, alone in his room in the last life. On impulse, I threw my arms around him. It's okay. I knew you'd come for me. His body stiffened, but a moment later, he returned the embrace. His pheromones enveloped me like a spring breeze. There won't be any more danger. From today on, you are my only Omega. I will protect you with my life. 3 months later, when Sylvia returned from the Midwest Distribution Center looking crestfallen, I was in the garden with Justin, watering the newly planted roses. She had lost a lot of weight, her eyes full of venom, but when she saw Justin wiping sweat from my brow, her face turned deathly pale. Justin, I know I was wrong. She had just started speaking when Eleanor's cane interrupted her. Enough, Sylvia. From today on, you are no longer part of the Michael family. Eleanor looked at me, her eyes filled with satisfaction. Emily, I'm entrusting the family's jewelry business to you. Is that all right? I looked at Justin. He nodded slightly, his eyes filled with unconcealed approval. As I accepted the documents, I heard Sylvia's thoughts shatter. Why? I'm the older sister. Because Emily understands respect and self-worth, Justin said, placing a sun hat on my head, a hint of pride in his voice. And you only ever take. Late into the night, I was in the study organizing jewelry designs. Justin suddenly wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder, tired. I shook my head, but couldn't help but lean into his embrace. After 3 months together, we had become accustomed to each other's presence. Actually, I knew you were reborn for a while, he suddenly said. After you died in the last life, I secretly went to your lab and found that diary filled with, Justin, I'm sorry. My body stiffened. That diary contained the regret from before I was reborn and my hidden affection for him. He chuckled softly, his fingertips tracing the red marks on my wrist, where Sylvia had cut me in the previous life. Later, I tried to turn back time many times. Finally, on the day of the family introductions, I heard your thoughts. He was also reborn then. I turned to face him, seeing a gentleness in his eyes I had never seen before. In this life, I won't just keep you safe. I want you to know. He leaned down and kissed me, his pheromones thick with affection. I love you too. It started a long, long time ago. On our wedding day, Sylvia was stopped outside the church. Justin, wearing a custom-tailored white suit, took my hand amidst a shower of rose petals. When the minister asked if we would stay together for life, I heard his thoughts ring clear as a bell. I do. From the past to the future, I will love you forever. Sylvia screamed and banged on the door outside, but she could no longer ruin our happiness. Justin placed the wedding ring on my finger and said softly, this time, it's my turn to spoil you rotten. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows onto us. I knew that in this life, the gears of fate had finally turned onto the correct path. And together, in love and trust, we would write our own happy ending.